Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Laramie City Council to order. It is Tuesday, May 16th. If you would like, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel?
Here.
Newman? Here. O'Doherty is absent. Pierce?
Here.
Just one sec. Okay, Richardson?
Here.
Shumway?
Here.
Somerville?
Here.
Okay. Cumbie?
Here.
And Harrington.
Here.
That is 8 present and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We will then move to public comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council can come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. If you'd like to come forward, please give us your name.
Paul Montoya, Mayor, City Council members. I had one quick thing. I know you have on your agenda tonight, you're going to recognize some public works type people, and I think that's great. And I think that should also come from the citizens too. We had a situation a couple weeks ago, our neighbor's house, their water main coming into the property began to leak and was oozing up. It wasn't a huge leak, but it was, enough where it was getting everything all wet. We noticed it after a day. We were wondering why the rain wasn't evaporating. And it turned out to be our next door neighbor's water main had developed a small leak. And this was a Sunday. We called, she was in Cheyenne visiting family, and when she came home, she called the non-emergency number for the city, and like within an hour, a couple of the guys showed up out there, and they determined that it was somewhere there, and they were a little concerned they might have to cut up the sidewalk and things like that. And on a Sunday night, they were planning on starting work the next morning. They notified all the neighbors down the block and let them know that they'd have to shut the water off in about an hour. So they gave it about an hour, shut it off, and everybody was fine. We didn't have water overnight, but we were prepared. And they had told us that they were going to be by at 6 a.m. to turn the water on for everybody so they could get ready for work on a Monday. And they had it on, I think, for about an hour, hour and a half. I had to leave, so I'm not sure exactly. But when I got back, they'd dug it up, they'd replaced the part. There was a fitting that went from the shutoff to the line that goes to the street and so forth. They replaced it, and the gentleman was nice enough to show me, and I guess it just wasn't put on right or something initially, and it worn out and started leaking. The only name I was able to get was Jason Elkhorn, so I'd like to recognize him with the city for all their hard work in getting that taken care of quickly, and if anything else, communicating to the neighbors what was going on, and I really do appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. That's sure appreciated. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Go ahead and come on forward. And please, we know you, but please give us your name.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. Thank you guys again for letting me speak. It's exhausting for me to be coming here again on a night that we should be recognizing all of the great staff in our community to continue to reiterate the problems that we're having. I promised weeks ago that I would come and tell you how the destruction of my aircraft and the process that followed was unfair, especially how the management and subsequent board of the airport handled situations. And I've never got to tell the start of the story. And it seems like every couple of weeks there's more issues that come up that need to be addressed. This week, or last week, 13 days ago, I entered into a purchase agreement to purchase a hangar out there, so I had permanent storage for my aircraft, and that I could resolve my issues with the airport, separating myself, which allowed me access to my aircraft and everything again. Unbeknownst to me, the airport board had introduced predatory clauses into the land lease that says that they have the right to execute, or they have the right of first refusal. So that means when I offer to purchase a building out there, a private building, traditionally it's always been a private building, the airport has the right to purchase it at the same purchase price and agreement that I made with the seller. So at the airport board, it was discussed that that was not a wise idea for the airport because of their finances. It was $105,000. That is way more than any of those hangars have ever sold for before. I think the nearest one sold for $50,000 was the last one. So double the price of what the equivalent hangar sold for. But they chose to purchase it for $105 at a special meeting 13 days ago that forced me to move my airplane out on the ramp. So they provided me no additional services, no additional hangar lease, rent, or anything. So not only did you guys purchase a hangar, I don't know what the reason is for, because the community hangar is vacant right now. There's 2 airplanes in there and it can house 12, and the door is broken, and the airport has continued to say that they don't have the funds to fix it. Why would you purchase a 1 airplane hangar out there for 2 times the cost of what it should be? For what, when you don't even have the airplanes to house? So I guess that's the events for this week, and I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us once again. We sure appreciate it. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the City Council on any item not on the agenda? If you do, go ahead and come forward, or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. All right, seeing none, we're going to close that public comment period, and I will recognize the Vice Mayor for changes to the agenda.
Okay. I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved. To move item 15 to 16A.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Richardson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been changed.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Newman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been set. We will then move on to proclamations, public hearings, and notifications, and we'll get started with a proclamation for National Public Work Week. This will trip me up, I'm sure. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Laramie, and whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interests of the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Laramie to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Brian Harrington, Mayor and President of the Laramie City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and to pay tribute to our public works professionals and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Laramie this 16th day of May 2023. Director Webb, thank you for bringing this to us this evening, and welcome.
You bet, Mayor, City Council. My original draft had 4 or 5 more whereases in there. I cut those out for you because they were getting a little long.
Sure appreciate that.
We really appreciate your support. Public Works Department has about 80 men and women that work really hard every day to improve our quality of life. I don't know if the American Public Works Association does this on purpose or not, but this is probably our busiest time of year. Our utility division, I know some of our folks that were going to be here tonight are still currently out working on a meter pit right now. In fact, Jason may be out right now, but thank you, Mr. Montoya. Jason's crew may be out there right now. Our utility division also this time of year struggles with water treatment with the runoff coming down and the high flows. The treatment that occurs at the facility out there changes constantly on what they have to do. With irrigation starting up, they're distributing more water throughout the community. Our streets folks are doing potholes and crack sealing and pavement markings this time of year. Sweeping has started up. Our solid waste folks are dealing with the spring cleaning, the student move out, free compost day this coming Saturday. And then our engineering folks, if you haven't noticed, our capital construction projects have started, and they are knee-deep into that. Again, thank you for your support. We plan on framing this proclamation and putting it in the new lobby out at the MOC Center. And there's some staff here, and I just know they'd love to take a picture with you folks.
Director Webb, we would love that too.
All right.
If you'd like to come forward, if you're a public works person, go ahead and join us.
Does it wheel? Oh, sorry. I didn't know it was plugged in.
It's hard to tell. Thank you. I've seen you around my neighborhood.
You're the older on.
Thank you for that.
All right, squeeze in like you guys like it.
I can't see Brady.
Everybody angle their shoulders into the middle, guys. That's the photographer.
On 3, 1, 2, 3, and one more, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Good right there.
Well, thank you, everybody. We have one more proclamation this evening, and I have asked Councilor Gabriel to read this one for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas on May 21st, 1881, the USTA, originally known as the United States National Lawn Tennis Association, was founded in New York City to create rules and standards for the emerging game of lawn tennis. Whereas the USTA is the nonprofit national governing body for tennis in the United States, leads the promotion and growth of the sport at every level of play, from beginners to professionals at the U.S. Open. Whereas the USTA proudly partners with local tennis programs to showcase the important health, social, and educational benefits of tennis, and make the sport available to everyone regardless of age, environment, condition, or ability through the USTA National Junior Tennis and Learning Programs and Adaptive Tennis Grants. Whereas the latest research by the Physical Activity Council shows that more than 23.6 million Americans played tennis in 22, an unprecedented 33% increase in participation over 2019. Whereas the Alpine Tennis Association was founded in Laramie with a mission to promote, develop, and ensure the sport of tennis is available and accessible to all in the Laramie community. Whereas tennis imparts characteristics such as hard work, perseverance, sportsmanship, determination, grit, positive thinking, problem solving, teamwork, and social skills to players in our community. Whereas in increasing the accessibility of tennis for Laramie citizens of all ages and ability, the USTA and the Alpine Tennis Association have contributed to making our community happier and healthier. Whereas the USTA has declared the month of May as National Tennis Month, to encourage players, organizations, providers, facilities, retailers, parks and rec, schools, etc., to promote, showcase tennis, and spread the word about the sport and its benefits, and to help players and non-players alike find courts and play opportunities in their communities. Now therefore, I, Pat Gabriel, acting on behalf of Mayor Brian Harrington, President of the Laramie City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 21st through the 27th of 23 as May is Tennis Month in Laramie, and hereby urge the citizens of Laramie to become aware of and involved in Tennis Month activities this May and pursue further tennis opportunities throughout the year.
Thank you, Counselor.
By the way, it's been a pleasure to be involved with cowgirl tennis over the past 12 years. This year, of course, we have some representatives from the Tennis Association, but they won the Mountain West Championship this year, and that was unprecedented, really a great year for the cowgirls.
That's excellent.
But I'm sure we'll hear more about it.
If there's anyone from your organization that would like to speak to the council, go ahead and come forward, and then we'll invite you all up for a picture, if you're willing. Welcome.
Councilman Gabriel, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for the proclamation. Yes, it is National Month all over the United States, and we definitely wanted Laramie to be a part of that. I don't know if you knew this or not, but in the state of Wyoming, we have the national 85 and over singles champion. We have an Arthur Ashe Diversity winner, right here out of the state of Wyoming, and one of those out of Laramie. So there's a lot going on in the tennis world. Yes, the head coach for the Cowgirls would have been here tonight, but they are playing in the first ever postseason NIT tournament, so he couldn't quite make it, but he would have been here. They have had a great season. Since I've been the high school coach at Laramie, we've won a boys state championship and the first ever girls state championship. I have 63 players out in the fall. I have 39 players out now for just a 4-week spring situation. So yeah, we are serving, we're a no-cut policy, so anybody that comes out gets to play, and I get to coach the best sport ever because when we go to a tournament, everybody plays. I don't have to choose. Also represented here tonight is the USTA Intermountain Region adult chair. She is here with us. Chair, okay, the member, sorry. Okay, she has been a lot. Catherine Harding, who is a former Laramie High School player and a high school coach now. And then Megan Jones, who's an up-and-coming parent and an Alpine Tennis Association board member. So all of us work through Alpine Tennis Association and also volunteer. Ann Moore, who could not be here tonight, has started an adaptive tennis program that is free. So we are bringing in people from 4 to whatever ages to play, no matter what their skill base is. So thank you so much for this proclamation. This weekend, on Saturday from 12 to 1:30, we have Family Day. It'll be held on the high school courts. It's for anybody. It's free, all levels, as well as adaptive tennis. Most all of us will be out there having a good time. So thank you for recognizing tennis. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase the great things that are happening in Laramie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
I should point out, Mayor, that Coach Clower's son, who's the head coach of the Cowgirls, Dean, was the coach of the year in the Mountain West Conference. So we have to recognize that as well.
Thank you.
CPAC.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Can we take a picture?
Yeah, of course. We'll all just kind of lurk here behind.
Okay.
But you're taller than me.
Yes.
You're taller than me. No, and Pat knows well how exciting cowgirl tennis matches are.
Say love 15.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Julie Francis, by the way, a long-time tennis player, every day, so. She has deals for you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We will get settled back in up here and move on to our public hearings. City Clerk, go ahead.
Okay, notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on May 16, 2023, in the City Council chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. The meeting shall be held with both an online Zoom and in-person option to take public comments on the following. Original ordinance number 2061, adopting the urban systems priority list and the 2023 major street plan map as required by WYDOT's urban system program. The urban systems program requires that each participating community establish a priority list of transportation projects to be funded by WYDOT, or the Wyoming Department of Transportation. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Planning Office at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this public hearing? If you're in the room, go ahead and come forward. And we will just need your name again, as per usual.
Paul Montoya, Mayor, City Council members. I was fortunate to be able to meet with a couple of you in regard to this. And I do realize in discussions I've had with you that, you know, this is kind of pie in the sky money, that this isn't just automatic money that comes from WYDOT. But for the record, I'd propose that you make an amendment to attachment A to priority item number 4. It currently reads Pierce Street, Snowy Range Road to Madison Street. If you do make that amendment, I would also ask that you amend the map to include Pierce Street down to Franklin Street. The justification for this, what I'm asking for, is currently the intersection of Snowy Range and Pierce has a traffic light there. And then coming further south, that first block is already got curb and pavement, and it is the width for a collector-type street. And as you probably realize, north of Madison, up to Curtis Street has just recently been paved, and that's all complete. The idea of making it collector all the way from Franklin Street up to Curtis Street would continue, it'd be a continuous collector route. My discussions with the city originally was that the reason that that wasn't done is to encourage traffic and a collector south of Snowy Range on Colorado Avenue. And my argument to make Pierce continue to be a collector besides the traffic light and it already being that width in the first block there is that a lot of the traffic coming from Wyotech right now uses Colorado Avenue. And as Jim Mathis tries to increase that population of that school, that's going to continue to be a lot of traffic on Colorado. Another argument would also be the fact that there is a platted development that is going to be coming before you once the gentleman gets funding for it, which is going to increase traffic also on Colorado Avenue. So by bringing Pierce Street all the way down to Franklin rather than stopping right at Snowy Range as a collector just seems to make sense. So I would encourage that you make an amendment to include that. Whereas I realize the committee could turn around and change that next year, I'll make the same argument to the committee next year if that does come up, because I do think it makes a lot of sense. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Any other members of the public wishing to speak to this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we will close that public hearing. And City Clerk, we will move on to the next one.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and via Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original Ordinance Number 2062, amending Laramie Municipal Code, Section 5.09, related to commercial service airport sales, location, and bar and grill liquor licenses, adding provisions for entertainment. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's Office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this public hearing? Go ahead and come forward if you're in the room, or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close that public comment period, or that public hearing, rather. And council, we will move on to announcements. Do we have a staff member taking the announcements this evening?
Yes, Honorable Mayor.
Assistant City Manager.
Thank you. Tonight it gives me great pleasure to introduce our rock star of the month, which is Braden Palm. Actually, I hadn't the pleasure to meet Braden until tonight, but as I read through his rock star article, there was a few things that became very apparent to me. Is first off, it seems like a long life of hard work and dedication to everything he picked up, whether it was playing football and then trying other sports that may not have worked, but sticking with football and becoming a varsity letter, or all of his work since he got hired, it was always about growth and becoming a better employee and becoming a better coworker and a better friend. And it's even more apparent when you look at his recollection with his family and how much he obviously loves being with his nieces and nephews and his family and his dedication to family. And I think it's just a great testament. I think it's also a great testament when we get to honor lifelong Laramigos, that have grown up in Laramie and continue to strive and make Laramie a better place. The last sentence that I really liked is his dedication to coworkers and as well as his family and friends. An ambitious drive is strong and has clearly paid off in spades, helping him land a new career in the Pumps and Wells division. And I'd like you to join me in congratulating Braden Palm on his nomination as Rock Star of the Month. I actually asked him if he'd say a few words, so I think if we coax him.
We twist his arm a little. Well, welcome, Braden. This is great for us to have you here. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and thank you for the work you do for the city.
Thank you, Todd. And I'd just like to thank you, Mayor and council members, for having me here. And I'm thankful for this honor and to Morgan Williams for nominating me. And just thanks a bunch.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, it's great to be able to recognize a Rock Star of the Month out of the Public Works Division when we have the Public Works Month proclamation too, so that's fantastic. Following that up, we have our Kudos Corner, which is where we recognize some of our part-timers, and you might recognize the name of this part-timer is Mercedes Bartholomew. She is the daughter of our own Nancy Bartholomew. She works as a lifeguard and swim instructor. She was nominated by Wendy Clubb, our aquatic supervisor, for teaching more lessons than anybody else over the last quarter, and for her ability to connect and really, she connects with her students to help them achieve their swim goals and progress into early lifelong swimmers. So really want to applaud her. She's actually teaching lessons tonight and can't be here. So really proud to honor Mercedes. I think both of these nominations are interesting, and I didn't mention it in the first one because I think the Rockstar nomination for Braden stands alone, but Braden is the son of Scott Palm, who's the superintendent of the water department. Is that right? Utilities division. And I actually didn't get to work with Scott much, and I do get to work with Nancy a lot, but they are amazing people, and they're raising amazing kids that are continue to contribute to this community. So let's have a big round of applause for Mercedes. Honorable Mayor, I do have two other announcements.
Please.
This week, over the past few weeks, we're starting to prepare for parklet season in Laramie. So this Friday, we plan to install a revamped parklet at Ivinson and 2nd Street. I'm pretty excited about it. So look forward to seeing that in production and being ready to go for the weekend. The Laramie Public Art Coalition recently hosted a cleanup at Laradise Lane and did some more painting on the side of the wall to clean that up. I'm not sure how many people they got, but it sure made a big difference down there. We're getting ready to get that cleaned up and get the umbrellas in place and get that ready for the summer also. We're excited about that. I'm not sure if the announcement was made about community cleanup days, but we had over 400 participants this year. We have 3 groups committed for later this month and 1 committed in August. We also received $500 from the Laramie Beautification Committee, of which we used $200 for gift certificates and $300 for trash bags. But was a very productive, overall successful community cleanup days, and we're excited for what we got accomplished in this community. So.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. And I was lucky enough to see a photo of the parklet. Pass along how great that is. The folks that built that did a great job. I'm really excited to see it in place. Council members, any disclosures by council members of items coming before us this evening?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to item 8. Vice Mayor.
I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Pierce. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel?
Yes?
Newman?
Yes.
Doherty is absent. Pierce?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Shumway?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
And Harrington.
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. The consent agenda has been approved. We will move on then to item 11 and recognize Councilor Newman.
I move to award the bid for the B2 sewer line replacement Phase 2 project to Simon Contractors of Laramie, Wyoming in the amount of $1,112,962.50, along with a contingency of $112,037.50 for a total amount not to exceed $1,225,000. Authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Pierce. Director Webb, to you.
Mayor and council, B2 sewer line Phase 1 was completed last summer. It was replacement and upsizing the sewer line between Corthell and 19th and some connections that needed to be done in there. The Phase 2 section goes from 19th Street down to 9th Street. Most of this work is out of the right-of-way. It's actually on the south side of Spring Creek, kind of in the alley or the embankment there, right next to the creek, so shouldn't affect the traveling public too much. I did want to just point out on your cover sheet, at the very beginning on the background, it says June 18th, 2022. That should be 2019. Doesn't really affect anything with the bid, but I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, we went out to bid. We got 2 bidders in on April 25th, Simon Contractors and Oftedal. Simon Contractors was the low bidder, and staff is recommending awarding the contract to Simon Contractors.
Thank you, Director Webb. Council members, any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, we're going to go to the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you are joining us from Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and back to the council for any comments. Okay. City Clerk, you can call the roll on item 11.
Somerville?
Yes.
Shumway?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Doherty is absent. Newman?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to item 12. Councilor Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Amendment Number 4 to the Professional Services Agreement with Sunrise Engineering for Construction Administration and Management Services for the B2 Sewer Line Replacement Phase 2 project in the amount of $99,000, along with the contingency of $10,000, for a total amount not to exceed $109,000, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Newman. Director Webb, back to you.
Mayor, Council, Sunrise Engineering is the firm that designed Phase 1 and Phase 2 of B2. They also did the construction management and administration on Phase 1. They are the most familiar with the project as far as consulting firms go, obviously. So staff is recommending award for the construction administration and management services to Sunrise Engineering.
Thank you, Director Webb. Council members, any questions on this item? Okay, seeing no questions, we will go to the public. If there's any member of the public who wishes to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close public comment on that item and go back to the council for any comments. Okay, seeing none, City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Okay, Newman,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Shumway,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent, Richardson,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to item 13. Councilmember Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Laramie City Council approve Resolution 2023-38, authorizing the submittal of an application to the United States Department of Transportation Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant in an amount not to exceed $1 million to support the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Richardson. Assistant City Manager, the floor is yours.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. This resolution is authorizing, as it says, the application for up to $1 million of funding to help provide infrastructure. And by infrastructure, what we're trying to do is safeguard the growth of electric vehicles by installing enough infrastructure to be ready for, I believe, the next 30 years. We had made a partnership with Space to provide some electric vehicle charging throughout the community, and they're actually planning to land their first one at the First and University parking lot, hopefully here soon. But they have looked at this grant and decided to take up the charge of applying for this grant and providing the match funds through their in-kind services of $100,000. So the intent is not to use any city funding to provide for this infrastructure. We're also open to match this infrastructure not only to go into public facilities, but to provide infrastructure as it goes into some of the commercial sites, whether it's the Gateway Plaza, the Woodbury site, the Ridley's, Murdoch's. The recreation center is actually a very difficult site and may actually cost, $250,000 to $300,000 just to get infrastructure there itself alone. So as much as we think this $1 million is going to bring a lot of infrastructure, it may really be limited as we go through this process. I was told yesterday that the application deadline for this got postponed for a couple of weeks, which is nice, but Space is taking up the application for this, and we are paying through a small professional services agreement of $1,500 for them to do that service for us to provide that infrastructure. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. Council members, do you have any questions about this item? Councilor Richardson.
Just have thank you. A question regarding the timeline for when this has to be used. What is the timeline for when this has to be used?
Honorable Mayor, through you, I believe it was 6 years. We had 6 years to try to put this infrastructure into place, which is probably, I would imagine the years are set up because getting transformers right now are difficult, and as we move through the process is hard to do. But one other thing I do want to note is that, this is a nationwide competitive grant, which is hard to do, but this also lays the groundwork for us if the state of Wyoming does provide funding through the NEVI program or the UW award or the Volkswagen award for solar power. So this is all laying groundwork for future potential grant applications also.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, council members? Okay. Councilor Gabriel.
Thanks, Mayor. Just curious, Todd, about the location. Do we have some say, how much say, I guess, do we have in location, priority? Say if we have a disagreement on where these are going to be installed, can the city say, let's go over this, this direction of town?
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Gabriel, I think that's handled through our previous agreement with Otter Space, where we have to mutually agree on the spaces or we won't put them in place. So I think that we do have the appropriate say to do that. Again, my number one spot was to land it down by the walk bridge, which became fiscally irresponsible due to the location of electrical services in that area. But, you know, as we work for that, we are in unison when we talk about what we're trying to provide. And if I give you a little bit of insight, you know, my whole goal when it came to EV charging was to provide fast charging on the outskirts of town, where people that are just coming through and want to stop at a convenience station and charge in less than 30 minutes and get on the road fits. But then when we do bring them into town, I wanted to have a little bit slower charging, a 2-hour charge, so that we could have those folks come into town at our economic centers and spend money, eat dinner, buy stuff in our community and do that. And that's probably what attracted Otter Space to join forces with Laramie, is because we already had kind of a simple plan that made sense. So I think we are in harmony on where we want to land the spaces and move forward from here.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions, Council? Okay, seeing none, we will go to any members of the public who would like to speak to this item. If you're in the room, go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment period and back to you all for any comments on this item. Okay. Assistant City Manager, I just wanted to thank you for, I think this is a good example of public-private partnership in action, and I think it's, you know, funded or not, this grant is, I think, a great first step towards some pretty meaningful investment in the city. So thank you for that. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Okay. Pierce?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes?
Shumway?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
O'Doherty is absent. Somerville?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. Councilor Newman, item 14.
I move to approve the Sundance Hills second filing final plat based on findings of fact and conclusions of law, acknowledge receipt of the required park in lieu of fee, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the plat.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Newman, second by Councilor Gabriel. And then I'm going to go ahead and go right back to Councilor Newman.
I also move to postpone this Sundance Hills second filing final plat until financial securities can be obtained based on the applicant's request.
I will second that.
Motion by Newman, second by Gabriel. And did you set a date? Did I miss that? Oh, I never mind. Sorry, I disregarded that.
Not on this one.
Okay, thank you.
I tried to add them, but it looks like it dropped off.
Mr. Gabatuller, to you.
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. You heard this item in March. This final plat is ready to go on our end. Everything's been reviewed and approved, but the applicant is still having trouble with the financial securities. I understand he was on, but the connection went bad, but all he was going to say was he's working to get financial securities, and we would also support the recommended council motion to postpone until those can be obtained.
Thank you, Mr. Gabatuller. Council, any questions on the postponement? Okay. Seeing none, we will go to any members of the public who wish to speak to this item. Come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and go back to the council for comments. We continue to wish the applicant well in finding those financial securities, and we will go to you, City Clerk, for a roll call on postponement.
Okay. O'Doherty, absent. Somerville? Somerville?
Yes.
Okay. Gabriel?
Yes.
Shumway?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been postponed. Council, we will move on to item 16. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve resolution number 2023-37, amending appropriations for the fiscal year 2023-2024 biennial budget of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Shumway, second by Newman. Director Wade, welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Councilors. It's nice to see you all this evening for another budget matter. It's my pleasure to present for your consideration a budget amendment for fiscal year 23 and 24 in partnership with Spencer Couturi, who is an accountant in the Finance Division. This budget amendment may be our easiest ever, and that is not always the case with budget amendments. What is unique about this amendment is that although we are recommending an amendment in 23 of $941,178, you have already approved all but $68,400 of that. And so there will actually be very little presentation this evening. And in 2024, we're recommending a change of $38,945 that you have also already approved. And so for our newer council members or members of the public who may be joining us, you can find all detail for city budget amendments in the packet. And so you can read the memo, the resolution to get full detail, but our presentations just focus on items that the council has not already approved, just to make the presentations more efficient. And so my overview to you this evening is that this is a very normal amendment, and it is an amendment that is entirely funded by cash reserves or transfers of appropriations between fiscal years. So there's not even anything of note from a funding standpoint. Spencer has a particular gift, thank you, Todd, for presenting verbally, and I like when people are able to use their gifts. And so we'll be partners on budget amendments henceforth. And so Spencer will present that detail to you, and then I'll pop back up and see if you have any final questions. Okay.
Thank you, Director Wade. Spencer, welcome.
And Mayor, I hope we're not going to debate.
Councilor Gabriel.
Not this evening.
I don't think we'll win.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. So there are 3 relatively small items on this amendment which have not been previously approved by you. There's so few of them today, as Director Wade said. I'm not going to do a fund-by-fund breakdown unless otherwise stated. These items are all in the general fund, and they're all funded by cash reserves. The first item is a one-time increase in appropriations of about $40,000 for software fees. The city was not invoiced for one of our software products by the vendor, and we were recently informed of the balance that we owe, and so staff is recommending additional appropriations to cover these expenditures. The second item is a one-time increase in appropriations of about $17,000 in the EMS division. And that increase in appropriations is to fund the replacement of IV warmers. The fire department had originally planned to only replace batteries for these items, but after further evaluation, they have determined that the existing equipment should be entirely replaced. The third item is a one-time increase of about $12,000 for Phase 1 of audiovisual improvements in the Municipal Operations Center conference room. That increase is split evenly between 4 different funds. As you may know, staff are working diligently to put the finishing touches on the new facility out there. The request in this amendment will provide microphones and other equipment to enable that conference room to host meetings with remote participants much more effectively. And staff are also planning additional improvements in fiscal year 2024 to supplement the work that will be done in fiscal year 2023. With all that said, I'm now going to pass the podium back to Director Wade to answer any questions you may have about this amendment.
Thank you.
Thanks to Spencer for a concise and engaging presentation. Happy to answer any questions you may have about this budget amendment.
Thank you, Director Wade. We always appreciate the non-accountant speak on the accounting matters.
Absolutely.
Council members, any questions? Okay. We will go then to members of the public. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item? If you do, go ahead and come forward if you're in the room, or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Vice Mayor.
I'm wondering if this would, I need to inject a motion to an addition to this. So I move that the Laramie City Council approve funding for a telebehavioral health pilot program in an amount not to exceed $40,000 starting in fiscal year 2024, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Is there a second, council? Vice Mayor, we may be a bit out of order here.
Out of
This may be a motion that you intend to bring on our overall budget that we will hear
tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, that will be for our special meeting. So,
all right. I retract that.
Thank you. Eager, and it's great to have a preview. Okay. Council members, yeah, that's right. I can sure appreciate it. All right.
For it.
Council members, any comments? City Clerk, we will, yeah, Councilmember Gabriel. Sorry, Shumway, goodness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to commend everyone that worked on not only this amendment and, the work that's been done on this, but all the work on the budget. It's enormous, thousands of hours, and it's been done very, very easy to understand, very professional, and I appreciate having, everything presented in a way that not only is easy for us to understand, but also for anyone that takes a look at our budget, and also any changes to the budget. It's an excellent job, and I think we need to commend them for their hard work. It's been great.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Pierce?
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited about getting a little more technology out at our Municipal Operations Center, so I really appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. Any other comments, council? Okay, seeing none, City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent. Pierce?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Shumway?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
And Harrington.
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to item 16A. Vice Mayor Cumby.
Okay. I move to approve a letter of support for a Bureau of Justice Assistance grant application for a diversion program and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Pierce. City Attorney, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be brief because we have Heather Carter here, who is the director of our specialty courts in the county, and she has most of the information. So I'll just make a couple of points that you saw on the cover sheet. This is not a grant that the city is applying for. It is a grant that the Albany County Court Supervised Treatment Program is applying for. They come to the city for a letter of support that you see. They went in front of the county commissioners earlier tonight, who approved that similar letter of support on behalf of the county. So, very quickly, and Heather can answer your detailed questions. This is an attempt to establish something that we've not had in Albany County before, and that's a diversion program. We have specialty courts for people who have been convicted of crimes and are high need and high risk. Those people are convicted, they have sentences hanging over their head, but they've been determined to be candidates to try to get their life in a different spot rather than sending them off to prison or jail. This grant, federal grant that's being applied for, is to target a different kind of person, a person who is may have committed a misdemeanor, but it's judged that it would be better if they got treatment, education, support, rather than go through and get a conviction on their record. And then if they, that's what a diversion program is, if they successfully complete that diversion program, then they don't have a conviction in the first place. So it does two things. It keeps a person's record clean, and number two, the idea is to address the underlying behaviors that got them into this in the first place, and one hopes get their life on a different track. You saw the financial obligation that we'd be committed to. The county commits to the same, and I think I'll turn it now over to Heather Carter.
Thank you, City Attorney. Ms. Carter, welcome.
Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me come and speak today. As the city attorney had indicated, I am the director of the specialty court programs here in Albany County. I've been that for a year now. I have a background of working in probation and parole, and so having the opportunity to create a diversion program that helps individuals on the front end, I think, is one of the gaps that we do have in our community right now. This grant that I'm applying for is a $900,000 grant that does request $300,000 in match funds over the 4-year period. So $150,000 total would be requested from county and from city. Breaks down to the $37,500 a year. We provided an alternative sentencing option for motivated low to medium risk individuals that have a low to high need in certain areas of their life. This position would, or excuse me, this grant would provide a new position with our program as diversion coordinator. We would use validated risk needs assessments to appropriately identify individuals to come into the program and accurately identify what their needs are. We will be focusing on substance abuse and mental health needs. Whereas somebody who might sit in jail because they're not able to get a psychological assessment or a mental health evaluation, or even as simple as a substance abuse evaluation. So the benefits of the program are funding would be tied to paying for those evaluations. I do have 3 treatment centers who have agreed to partner with us and have provided letters of support. And I anticipate that I can get more. Drug testing is part of this program that would be paid for. That is a requirement of the grant. Would be also then paying for any treatment that comes up. Part of the transitional needs we would look at is housing, job placement assistance, education assistance, if they needed help with HISET, those kind of even basic things. The system is sometimes confusing and difficult to navigate. If an individual is having concerns with homelessness, and that's something that led to the offense, that would be something that we could cover as part of this grant as a transitional need. And how I anticipate doing that is, excuse me, being able to provide some bridge housing, temporary housing. That might be in a motel for a little bit, but really the goal would be deposit and a month rent while we apply for housing. while we identify community resources. My hope would be long-term to be able to partner with some property management companies that works with us. We have that on the court supervised treatment side right now. So I think that that would be something that we could work out. In the long run, identifying that this would reduce workload of attorneys, dockets for the courts, and providing people the opportunity to not have some of those charges on their record, such that would affect housing, employment, school applications in the future. Our caseload numbers for what I am putting in the application is very much on the conservative side. That would be more people that are more high need, that they would need more services. So the caseload numbers are on the lower end. Has first year at 20 participants, second year at 40, third at 44, and fourth year at 48. I do anticipate that if we have more of the low risk, low need, we could provide way more case management services, with the hope that we could expand the program in the future. But filling those slots definitely does not seem to be a concern for our courts. I have spoken to the judges in both city court, municipal court, and circuit court. I've spoken to the county attorneys, the prosecuting attorneys in both courts, and they are all in support as well and providing letters of support. And this could be an exciting adventure. If we do not get the grant, I will be finding creative ways to look for other funding opportunities, because I think that this would be a good opportunity for people in our community. Any questions?
Thank you. Council members, any questions? Councilor Gabriel?
Thanks, Mayor. Heather, curious, I was on the county commission when we first started the drug program.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference, or maybe they're not so different from this program that you're talking about?
Absolutely. With the drug court program, that is focusing on high-risk, high-need individuals, and what that means is they have a high risk to reoffend if those criminogenic needs aren't met. And then as far as the needs aspect, there's certain areas in their life that are put them at higher risk of committing new offenses, whether that's friends, family, lack of employment, lack of positive social things, substance abuse, unaddressed mental health. So we focus on that for the drug court piece. All of those individuals have they have a conviction. Very rarely do we get somebody that comes in on a deferral, means that they've pled guilty, but it's held while they're going through the program. All of them right now have a significant jail sentence or prison sentence. We had an individual who had 10 to 30 years suspended. So it's more intensive on that end. There's also the probation aspect on that end. So they're meeting with a probation officer. Probation officers doing home visits. They are making sure they're requiring them to work. They're requiring them to do that piece. Whereas on the diversion side, they've not yet appeared in front of the judge. They might appear in front of a judge, but they have not entered a plea. Our hope is initially to catch them before they even have to appear in front of a judge, and we can divert them from the whole court process. With this, it's going to be more case management. So based on what they need, we're not going to enforce work. It's not going to force somebody to go to school. We're not going to be monitoring that. It'll be more fitting them into the resources that is going to make them more successful. The big thing about this, there's a lot of people that would qualify for it. It would be a matter of, on our program on the front end, doing a good process on the application side and the risk screening side, that we're getting motivated individuals who do want to make some changes in their life. You'll have always somebody who wants to pay a fine and move on with their life and be done. Those aren't going to be the people that we are targeting. We will also have the individuals who, doing 7 days in jail is nothing to them, or having another possession charge on their record. We would still work with somebody who had multiple possession charges, but if they're interested in the treatment or in filling whatever needs they have, then that would not be somebody we would devote resources to. So it would really be narrowing down to motivated individuals involving, that would be the best thing I could say, is it's the pre-court motivated individuals, case management. It's not going to be, if you don't do this, probation officer is going to come knocking on your door. Eventually, if somebody does not follow through with the contract, it would be referred back to the original court to move through the process, but it would just be giving that opportunity before it got there.
Appreciate it, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Somerville?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really excited to see this type of program in Albany County, but I do have a question on the mental health and SUD services side. So you said you had a couple of providers that are contracted. In the grant application, have you guys discussed at all the resources that are going to become available on July 1 of 2024 in terms of the behavioral health redesign that the state has instituted? And I'll just explain a little bit. Starting July 1 of 2024, all state level and non-state level criminal justice offenders are or people involved in criminal justice system are eligible for essentially free mental health and substance use services. So I wonder if that could be taken into account with the grant application in terms of stretching maybe those resources even further in terms of treatment dollars that the program is actually paying for. Because I think there's a large portion starting next July 1 that the program would need to pay for, that the state is going to cover that under their new behavioral health system.
Thank you. I had not spoken to the treatment providers as of this time about that. That's a very good information for me to have, because absolutely that would affect, in reality, what that would do. I can tell you where the money would go right now is more transitional services to be able to pay for more housing, transportation, childcare, those kind of things. So I could tell you right off the top where that money would go. And then with the treatment providers, we have not contracted yet. They have just indicated that they would be a partner. I would like to utilize multiple agencies here in the community and have not tied it to one provider, which is different from the drug court side of things, so that we're able to timely get evaluations, MAT services, the medically assisted treatment, those kind of things. So that's great information. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. I think any way we can stretch that money further and get additional services into the community around that is really helpful for those types of programs. And I'll follow up with you offline and get you some more specific information. Can you remind me when you said the grant was being turned in?
Yes, the grant, we are submitting it this month. We will find out in August.
Okay, I'll follow up with you quickly. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Somerville. Council members, any other questions? Councilor Newton?
I have a comment.
Hold on to it for one moment. Councilor Richardson?
Thank you. The 37.5 match, is that in kind, or does it need to be cash match, or is it a combination?
It could be, that's a good question. Sorry, I have one in my head and I think it could be in kind, but let me double check. In my head, it's cash, but it might be able to be. I think it's cash. I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors, any other questions? Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Heather, I have a few questions. You indicated that this diversion program would be for people that have not been before the judge or maybe have a deferred sentencing. But then you also said that you're going to be working with other people that already have several strikes against them and be working with them, correct?
So let me clarify. They could have no criminal history, or they could have had a criminal history. Nothing will preclude them. The only thing that would make them ineligible would be tied to the grant requirements, a sex offense, or if this was a violent offense. Criminal history will not make them ineligible.
Now, you talked about drug court. Is there a diversion program currently in place? And would this be something that would bolster that?
So there is a tiny little effort on the county side. It's called TAEA. I'm sorry, I could tell you what it stands for. It's right here in front of me. For 18 to 25-year-olds specifically, transitional aged young adult. It's been kind of a fledgling program. I believe it's capped at 10 people, and they have had 1, 3, 5 maybe that are in there. I'm actually absorbing that program into court supervised treatment side, and that will be absorbed into this program if that starts. So there will be no other diversion, and this is just for county on very select offenses. So I'm revamping that one. That is the only diversion option for adults here. So anybody over 25 would not qualify. And I'm not even sure how they select people for that program historically. But that will be something I'm folding in under my wing. If the grant doesn't come through, this is something I'm going to revamp anyway because we need it. And my goal would be then to use that as a platform to build and create a case management system and good education prevention curriculum to then reapply for grants and those kind of things.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Heather, you indicated that the grant is for $900,000, which
Yes,
to me sounds like a lot of money. Yes. How many cases do you see this grant being able to, how many cases can you take before you're beyond what the capacity is for this grant?
So what we are submitting for numbers and what we have budgeted, I had to put a number to it, and to do that, I had to be on the conservative side, which is that we're having moderate risk, high need people that are coming in. They're going to need case management a couple times a week. They're going to need intensive outpatient treatment. They're going to need a lot of services. So the number that I've presented is on the lower end, and that would be the 20 participants to start, 40 the second year, 44 the third year, and 48 the fourth year. That's worst case scenario as far as numbers. I anticipate we will have a lot, especially with Laramie's population, of lower risk, lower need individuals that just need to do an education class, some community service, pay some restitution, and they'll be done. The program's designed for a year, but they could be done in as short as 2 months if you had an individual that came in and got what they needed to done for the diversion contract and then were released from diversion. So I hated having to put a number to it because it sounds really low, but that's very much higher need population, highest need population. So that's on the conservative end. I would anticipate we could easily have 100, 150 people. It would be a matter of having the staff and the bandwidth to be able to provide that case management, get those resources, and meet all of those needs. I would anticipate that if we do get the grant and we do get up and going and those numbers do increase, I would be able to argue for more staff to provide those services, but it's really going to kind of depend on workflow and how high of a need of population we're getting. The goal would be those individuals who are high risk, high need, they're being screened for probation. That is not the population we want to deal with. That's why probation is here. We do want the lower risk, no matter what their needs are, that we can meet those.
Go ahead, please.
Please.
Heather, you said there's a contract. Now, I would anticipate if the numbers are 150, that contract would be very strictly enforced. Yeah. If you have 20, you want to keep them to give them all the benefits of the program. How tough are you going to be on the contract, and would you say that a reasonable person should be successful, or a reasonable person would have to be very, very focused to get through the program?
No, a reasonable person I would anticipate would be successful. If they are, and again, that big piece is the motivation on the front end going in. They don't have any interest in doing this. You have a lot of people that decline to do probation because they don't want to go through that. And we're not at probation level, but absolutely. And as far as termination criteria or how tough they are, honestly, that would be part of a community stakeholder decision going in. I haven't drafted any of that yet. I would want input from prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, creating that so that we're not having unbalanced in either court, and that we have across the board expectations. There is statutes out of Colorado that are specific diversion. I've contacted every diversion court in Colorado and gotten copies of paperwork and what they have for contracts and those kind of things. They're very much, if there's community service tied to it, if there's restitution, the restitution plan is being followed because a victim is involved. And then any of those needs. And since it would be more motivated by the individual and us helping them meet those needs, I would anticipate less hesitancy on the person to participate.
Thank you, Councilor. Council members, any other questions? Vice Mayor, and then we'll go back to Councilor Gabriel.
Okay. Thank you very much for your work on this. I have a comment, so let's go to question and I'll wait.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilor Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious about, I haven't heard you address this, but your position as opposed to maybe the city or county attorney on how that would be resolved if you think an individual should be in diversion and maybe the city or county attorney might think otherwise. How is that conflict resolved?
I would, and in my application, I also put in there that would be something as part of that planning period with, that the grant would require us to have a technical assistant during the first 6-month planning period. And that would be part of the community stakeholder input on finding those things and defining those things. I will tell you that there would be very few criteria that I think should not have a person eligible for the program, and a lot of those are grant requirements or statutory requirements, such as DUI. Statute changes, we can't dismiss a DUI, those kind of things. So the grant also has sex offenses tied to it, violent offenses, offenses with firearms. Outside of that, if a person applies, I would like to be able to screen every single person. If they come in too high of need, or excuse me, wrong word, too high of risk, then that would be a letter that would be drafted that said we would recommend for probation. They would benefit from probation. If they come in at that low risk or medium risk, that would be an individual I would want to vet for the program. Based off of their motivation, based off of what needs to be met if there's a victim involved. I would also note part of the diversion process is repairing harm to the community and repairing harm to victims. So if a victim is identified, part of that vetting process would be contacting the victim and having the victim sign off on or have buy-in to the diversion program. Identifying, we're going to be working on restitution, we're having needs met, versus having the individual go through the court system. So that could be something that hinders people coming in, but I think if there's a good enough, I don't want to say sales pitch, but the benefits on the front end on why the diversion would be a better option, then I think that we wouldn't have a whole lot of resistance from individuals who are harmed. So does that answer your question? Sorry. Thank you. I got rambling.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions, Council?
I do have a question.
Vice Mayor.
Heather, I'm just wondering about cost benefit. So in looking at this and looking at the population that comes through court, the outcomes where people are getting 2-3 years probation, a week or two in jail, compared to diversion, I mean, can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And some of those charges will be, it might seem silly to do diversion for a misdemeanor possession charge, where somebody could have suspended jail time and 180 days, or excuse me, 180 days suspended and a year of unsupervised probation. The big thing on those is that there is no case management resources on an unsupervised probation. So there's nobody to help navigate the system. On the probation side, probation and have a lot of experience there, their focus is on high-risk, high-need people. So individuals that come in even to probation aren't necessarily getting the attention because they don't score where they're supposed to, and it is very much a philosophy that you have less attention, less contact with low-risk, low-need people, and you focus on the high-risk, high-need people. And so there becomes a little bit of there becomes a gap there. Probation very much fills a need for those higher-risk individuals. We want to focus on those lower risk, and really the purpose of it is to provide that intervention where somebody can continue to get in trouble if they've had multiple charges in the past. Chances are that they've not gotten the opportunity to address a lot of those needs. Whereas with, and diversion programs and the community court program that we're applying for, there's not a whole lot of data out there. They're relatively new as far as collecting data. There hasn't been a lot of structure around what data they're actually collecting, those kind of things. So that's just now starting to be reformed, and new guidelines have been established just as of November of last year, looking at some of the data points that they want to collect. So it's very much evolving. I can absolutely see cost benefit. It would be more on providing those intervention need services and not having more go into the system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other questions, Council? Okay, I have one for you. I'm curious if you can walk me through how somebody would enter this diversion program. So who is it that assigns them diversion when they are arrested for whatever it may be?
Great question. And I'm glad the chief is here. So part of it is going to be, at that planning process, education for law enforcement. Really getting, if you have contact with somebody who, and law enforcement is currently getting trained in crisis intervention, trainings, those kind of things, which plays into exactly what diversion is identifying as mental health, substance abuse needs, and not having those people in the system. So in conjunction with the CIT training law enforcement's getting, if you have somebody that has, the need to be cited in, education on law enforcement end where, you have a college student who just got a possession charge and is going to lose their financial aid, and they're freaking out to on the officer. something like that. So education on law enforcement and where this is an option, I want it available to the public. I'd like to have it on the website where anybody can access it, an application and information on the program, as well as all of the court clerk's offices. So anybody that comes in, it's right there, it's available, and then it would be a PR push as far as this is an option out there to help. From there, it would then go to the prosecuting attorney's office. I have a bad habit with county attorney. I'm not used to city attorney. And so at that point, that would be where myself or our coordinator would also be hustling for participants. Hey, I saw the jail list, or the court list. This person would qualify, can we talk to them? So it's really gonna be, especially the first year, getting the routine out, who would be identified. I would love everybody to have access to the information and the application, and then from there we be able to vet appropriately. And then I told Judge Playton I have no concerns sitting in court and being able to identify, like, hey, are we a resource? Especially when she has 8 kids up, for a UACA, or they busted out some windows downtown, something like that. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Council members, any other questions?
I have one quick one.
Still a comment. Got a question, though. Vice Mayor.
One quick one. Does this program include both adult and juvenile? Okay.
Great question. No. Our juvenile diversion right now is through Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you.
Adult. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We're going to go, council members, without questions, we'll go to the public and back for comments. Okay. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item? Go ahead and come forward, or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Councilor Newman, you're up.
Heather, I appreciate all the work that you've done through this. A younger Brandon had to go through one of these programs, and I will tell you, council as well, that I was the guy that just wanted to pay the fee and move on. And that's in part of the screening process. Didn't catch that when I did this back when I had to. I was 17, I think, somewhere in there. So I appreciate you guys adding that. I will also say, going through the program the right way after I was forced to, or go do some jail time, it sounded like, that it changed me, right? I've never been in trouble again. I've never had to deal with law enforcement other than talking to them for other matters. So I'm going to vote highly positive for this.
Thank you, Councilor. Vice Mayor, you have a comment?
I just think this is a very important program, and having been a therapist in town, working with young adults 18 to 35, I've seen how once they get into the probationary system, it can often, without support, it can result in a spiraling process where they keep getting deeper and deeper into the system. They're failing probation, yet we don't have support to help pull them out of that nosedive. And I think this could be very important, and I think it could give a lot of young people and a lot of individuals a second chance, and also give us an opportunity to reach out and connect people with resources. So I really appreciate the way you're thinking and your emphasis on making community connections. I think it's essential to the success of the program, and I'm very excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other comments, council, before the vote? Councilor Pierce, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your enthusiasm. I think this is great. This fulfills certainly a gap that we see and have seen on council, and we really appreciate all of this and really excited to look forward to a potential update, maybe a year or two from now, and kind of let us know how's it going. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I promise, as part of the grant, I'll be here every 6 months to give you updates with a great case management system. We'll have good data.
Great. Thank you.
We will look forward to that. Councilor Shumway?
I'll be brief. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All right. Any other comments, Council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for spending the evening with us. I know you've had kind of a busy one, so thank you.
Absolutely.
And I will stay optimistic about this grant, but I think regardless of the outcome of the grant, this will remain a priority of the council. So please keep in touch about it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, City Clerk, please call for the vote.
Shumway?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent. Pierce?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, 0 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved unanimously. We will move on to item 17. Councilor Newman.
I move to approve original ordinance number 2058 on third and final reading, amending Laramie Municipal Code Section 9.16 regarding handbills upon private property when nuisance declared, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Gabriel. Councilor Newman.
I move to postpone original ordinance number 2058 on third and final reading until June 6th.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Shumway. Councilors, any conversation on the postponement? Okay. We will go to members of the public on the postponement. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak on Zoom or come forward. Seeing none, we will close public comment period. No comments, council? Okay, City Clerk, you can call the roll on postponement.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent. Pierce?
No.
Richardson?
No.
Shumway?
Yes.
Somerville?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
Okay, that is 6 yeses, 2 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That postponement has been approved. The item will be heard on June 6th. Item 18, Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve original ordinance number 2061 on second reading, adopting the 2023 Urban Systems Project Priority List and the 2023 Major Street Plan Map as presented.
Second.
Motion by Shumway, second by Pierce. Mr. Gabatuller, welcome.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of council, this is second reading, so I'm not going to go through the entire cover sheet items and the ordinance again. But I do think in lieu of some public comment that we received, I'd like to provide some clarification on the item prior to any discussion that may occur. In the ordinance itself, it describes the process that we took to get here to have this item heard before City Council. City Planning Commission heard it, as well as the USAC committee itself. Both of those bodies had public hearings at those meetings associated with the item that were duly advertised and so forth. So we certainly encourage public comment, but for this specific item, we would strongly recommend that Mr. Montoya's or any public comment on the items should be brought forward at the next USAC meeting in 2024. So that's kind of a preface to the statement that the fact that this is a long-range planning tool before you this evening. None of the transportation projects on the priority list or the map itself are anticipated to be realized in the next year, certainly, but really in the next 5 years. This is a long-range plan that we use to, assign monies when we receive them from YDOT and when the CIP allows. So that being said, if council does wish to make any changes to what's proposed here at second reading, then those changes would actually need to be remanded back to the USAC committee to be reheard, and then reheard by Planning Commission as well as the County Board of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it is a big, it would be a heavy lift to remand back where, as I mentioned, it's a long-range planning tool. So hearing these items in 2024, we feel like would get us to the same place. So therefore, I'd just suggest that planning staff recommends that it be passed, or on second reading be moved to third reading as presented.
Thank you, Mr.
Take any questions?
Sure, thank you. Council members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will go to members of the public who wish to speak on this item. If you're on Zoom, go ahead, and if you're in the room, come forward. Mr. Montoya. Of course, give us your name.
Paul Montoya, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My only argument to the statement.
Can you make sure your microphone is on, please?
Yes, I believe it is. There we go. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Where was I? Essentially, I think it makes a statement to the residents that you're proactive in moving forward with a minor change like this. Should this go back to committee, I think it'll show that you are this is important, an important change, even though it be a minor change that needs to be looked at. And I think if it does need to go back to the committee, I think that's fine, but I think your statement tonight in amending it, if you can make that minor amendment, I mean, we're really only talking about a block of improvement. It's not really that major, but I think it shows that you're aware of that and that those are your wishes, and that's what you'd like to see move forward by the committee from a city standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and back to the council for any comments. Councilor Pierce and then you, Councilor Shumway.
Yeah, as much as I appreciate Mr. Montoya's comment and desire, I think it's kind of wildly inappropriate to even consider this at this time. So, Planning Office, Planning Commission, County Planning Commission, Wyoming Department of Transportation, the committee, all reviewed this and spent many hours and time working on this. We can certainly bring this forward in the next year or the next year, but at this time we need to just move forward with what we currently have on the docket. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the information that Mr. Montoya has brought to us. I do not want to remand this back to the urban systems to have a special meeting before their next meeting. The initial proposal that I had heard was to have it changed from Madison, which initially is Madison to Snowy Range along Pierce, and then it was to be moved then another 3 or 4 blocks down to Franklin. And then also it was suggested it go from Franklin all the way to Curtis, which would be a huge change to the plan, which would cost probably millions of dollars to do that entire stretch, which, by the way, we talked about a year, 5 years, it'll probably be 20 years before we ever get to anything like this. And for us to have the urgency to push it back to the Urban Systems Committee right now would be inappropriate. And so I'm not going to make that, but I will make a promise that I'm going to remember this, and when we meet the next time, I'm going to bring it up for discussion and public input on that, because this part of a collector in West Laramie is vital, and it will always be vital, and we need to keep our focus on things that are going to be good for the city. And so I'll continue to do that, but I'm not going to make any motions at this time.
Thank you, Councilor Shumway. Any other comments, Council? Okay, seeing none. City Clerk, you can call the roll on this item.
Okay. Newman?
Yes.
O'Doherty is absent. Pierce?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Somerville is absent. Shumway?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 7 yeses, 0 no, and 2 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to item 19. Councilor Richardson.
Okay, sorry, I zoomed out.
Take your time.
Zoom back in.
That's always how that works, right?
Just kidding. It's all tight up here. Okay, here we go.
Thank you. I recommend that council move to approve original ordinance number 2062, second reading, amending Laramie Municipal Code Section 5.09 related to commercial service airport sales, location, and bar and grill liquor licenses, adding provisions for entertainment.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Vice Mayor Cumby. City Clerk.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So as the city clerk went over the first ordinance last meeting, I'm not going to go over too much. These are state statute changes from this year. We are adding entertainment to our bar and grill. And in that change, the state legislature has left it up to the local authority to come up with a definition for adult entertainment, which includes adult entertainment and gambling. So we are asking for an amendment tonight to add adult entertainment to our language here. We have another section in our code that we are going to reference to. So adult entertainment means entertainment including but not limited to activities described in LMC 15.28.030.A.318. And that is the language we are asking to add in tonight. I'm here for any questions.
Council members, any questions? Councilor Shumway.
First of all, I cannot imagine how we're going to find entertainment and food that matches the requirement by the state for this license, because most of the I think, what is it, 60/40? What's the?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where they're going to get that. I want to have a definition from our city attorney on what is when I hear adult entertainment, I'm not thinking of, I'm thinking of the wrong thing. So I want to know what this is going to permit at the airport and what form of entertainment they have besides gambling, which they brought up, that would happen at the airport.
Many things go on at the airport, as you hear every meeting. This is not just restricted to the airport. The point, this has to do with bar and grill licenses generally everywhere. The point being that they said, well, it shouldn't be this year just between food and drink. It should be between food, drink, and entertainment, so that they so that entertainment has to be thrown in there. And that is for the you've got a stage and bands perform and people buy tickets, and so you're making money off that. You're making money off food. That should count toward your 60%, not just the food. So from there, they say, all right, entertainment counts just like food, but not adult entertainment as defined by the licensing authority, defined by the city. Well, the best we have in code right now is what's being referred to, as you saw in your cover sheet. It kind of comes out of our zoning regulations about these kinds of establishments, where they can be in the city or they can't be here at all. That's not a perfect definition, but talking with Nancy, she and I talked quite a bit about this, and we didn't want the liquor laws to be the tail wagging the dog. Because if the city wants a more full definition of adult entertainment, we did a lot of research, in fact, Ryan did it, going to a number of cities, Colorado, Wyoming, and those cities have like 4-page definitions of adult entertainment, because you have to be careful about the First Amendment as you try to define adult entertainment. We don't have something like that in place. So what we're suggesting here is the best we have, we can refer the establishment to that definition we have existing elsewhere in our code. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's not just airport. And really what they're trying to capture, forget adult entertainment, is if a place has a stage and sells food, all of that should count toward their 60%. Did I get that right, Ryan, or even close?
Yeah, it can be all food, it can be a combination of both, or all entertainment. Yeah.
That was helpful. Thank you, and good question, Councilor Shumway. We were all wondering, I have a feeling. Any other questions, Council? Okay, we will go to, is there any council member, I guess, I'm going to go ahead and just ask, I can't do this, but any council member interested in making that amendment? Okay. Councilor Shumway.
We're still in questions.
We could be, sure, yeah.
My question is this definition set by the city, or is this definition set by the state for bar and grill licenses?
As far as defining adult entertainment?
What entertainment is, as far as adult entertainment. I don't know what's going to be included in our menu when it comes to things that are permitted at any place with a bar and grill license.
Yeah, so the state wants the local licensing authority to define that in our code. So it's leaving it up to us to, I guess, define it.
Councilor Pierce?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Thank you.
I move to amend original ordinance number 2062, section 5.09.010 by adding the following definition for adult entertainment, in quotation marks. Adult entertainment means entertainment including but not limited to activities described in Laramie Municipal Code 15.28.030. Capital A.318.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, seconded by Gabriel. Thank you, council members. Any discussion or questions on the amendment? Does everybody feel pretty clear about what's happening here? Okay. Councilor Richardson.
I actually have a little bit of
Please.
clarification that I need. So we're talking about, and sorry if I'm just really slow here, amending section 5.09.010, but what we see above is 5.09. Do we see 5.09, or would this be the amendment to make it 5.09010? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I confusing anyone else more than I should be?
I'm going to go to the city attorney on that.
Could you say that again?
Okay, so the original code section is 5.09, and it just talks about provisions for entertainment. And then the second motion is to amend original ordinance 2062 5.09.010, where, I guess I'm not seeing where that portion is to see what that final piece reads out, or is that?
Well, if I understand your question, here's what I think is going on, if this answers your question. What we're trying to do says, we're trying to follow the statute that says entertainment is lumped in with food, except adult entertainment, and as defined by the city. And so what we're saying is we're defining adult entertainment to include those things in the municipal code section 15.
Perfect.
Does that make?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't quite following that one straight, so thanks.
Yeah, the 0.10 is just a subsection in that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's our definitions section.
Good question. Yeah, no problem at all. Council members, any other questions on the amendment? Okay. We'll go to members of the public who wish to speak to the amendment. Raise your hand or come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Back to council for any comments before the vote on the amendment. City Clerk, you can call the roll on the amendment, council.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent. Pierce?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Shumway?
Yes.
Somerville, absent. Cumby?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
That is 7 yeses, 0 no, and 2 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That amendment has been adopted. We are back on the main motion. Everybody's had quite a few chances to question this, but if you have questions, we'll go through a quick question period with brevity. Okay. Seeing none, we will go to members of the public on this item. Any member of the public wishing to speak on this item as amended, go ahead and come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for comments. And Councilor Pierce?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. I think this is a really good opportunity to allow some flexibility, and hopefully it'll work. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. Any other comments? Great. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Okay. Somerville, absent. Shumway?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
O'Doherty, absent. Newman?
Yes.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Cumby?
Yes.
And Harrington.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses, 0 no, and 2 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on second reading. Council, we will move on to item 20, which is public comments. Any members of the public wishing to speak to the council, raise your hand or come forward. Okay, we will close that public comment period. Council, any considerations for future work session topics at this point? Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know that our discussion regarding the ward meetings is on our list. So we're good.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. And I would note for everyone, when you look at your upcoming meetings schedule, the amendments are for the budget are coming forward on May 23rd. There will be a special meeting to hear those right up front. Am I correct, City Clerk? Since I decided to take some time to say that, I was like, well, maybe I better be right. Great, thank you. All right, Councilor Pierce, to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, council. We are adjourned.